You're wasting your life on crayons and daydreams, honey. When will you get a real job? My mother said this at my college graduation dinner. Not in private, not as a gentle suggestion. She said it loud enough for my entire extended family to hear, right after I announced I'd been accepted into a prestigious art residency program in New York. I was 24 years old. I'd just graduated with honors from art school. My thesis piece had been featured in a local gallery. But none of that mattered to them. My father laughed. Actually laughed. An artist, he said, shaking his head like I'd just told him I wanted to become a professional clown. We paid $60,000 for you to paint pictures nobody will buy. My younger brother, always their golden child with his finance degree, smirked into his wine glass. My aunt avoided my eyes. My grandmother suddenly became very interested in her dessert. I sat there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, feeling my cheeks burn with humiliation. The restaurant felt too bright, too loud, too full of witnesses to my shame. I got into the Whitman residency, I whispered, trying one more time. Only 15 artists in the country. Participation trophies don't pay rent, sweetheart, my mother interrupted, patting my hand like I was a confused child. Your cousin Jennifer just made junior partner at her law firm. Now that's an accomplishment. The table went silent. Everyone waited to see if I'd cry. I didn't. Not yet. But something inside me cracked that night. Something I didn't know if I could ever repair. Little did they know, in exactly 6 months, everything would change. And they'd be the ones sitting in silence. I moved to New York 3 weeks later with 2 suitcases and $700 to my name. My parents didn't help me pack. They didn't drive me to the airport. My mother sent a single text message. Call us when you're ready to come home and be realistic. I didn't respond. The Whitman residency provided a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn and a monthly stipend that barely covered ramen noodles and subway fare. My space was smaller than my childhood bedroom, with walls so thin I could hear my neighbors' every conversation. But it had enormous windows that filled with golden light every morning. It was mine. My sanctuary, my chance. I painted every single day, sometimes for 16 hours straight. My hands cramped. My back ached. I forgot to eat. I forgot to sleep. The other artists in the program became my family. We shared late-night critiques, cheap wine, and the kind of desperate hope that only starving artists understand. Your parents really said that to you? My friend Marcus asked one night, after I'd mentioned the graduation dinner. We were sitting on the fire escape, watching the city lights. Yeah, I said quietly. They think I'm throwing my life away. Then prove them wrong, he said simply. Make something so beautiful, so undeniable, that they have to see you. So I did. I created a series called Invisible Women, 12 massive canvases exploring the ways society dismisses young women's ambitions, dreams, and voices. Each piece took weeks to complete. I poured every ounce of my humiliation, my rage, my determination onto those canvases. I barely spoke to my parents during those months. Birthday texts went unanswered. Holiday calls were brief and cold. They thought I was punishing them. Really, I was just too busy building the life they said I couldn't have. But I had no idea that my biggest piece, the one I titled When They Laughed, would soon be seen by someone who could change everything. My mother called me exactly once during those 6 months. Your brother just got promoted, she said. No hello, no how are you. He's making 6 figures now. 26 years old and already more successful than most people twice his age. The implication hung in the air like poison. Unlike you. That's great, Mom, I said flatly, squeezing my paintbrush so hard my knuckles turned white. He bought a condo. A real one in a nice neighborhood. He's talking about proposing to his girlfriend. She paused. What are you doing exactly? Still playing with paints in that shoebox apartment? I looked around my studio. At the 12 completed canvases leaning against every wall. At the paint stains on my floors that I'd never be able to remove. At the rejection letters from galleries mixed with the few acceptance letters I'd managed to earn. I'm working, Mom. Working, she repeated, and I could hear the air quotes in her voice. Honey, you're 24 years old. When I was your age, I had a career, a house, a retirement plan. You have nothing. Nothing. The word echoed in my tiny apartment long after she hung up. My father was worse. He'd tell anyone who'd listen that I was finding myself in New York, said with the kind of condescending tone reserved for trust fund kids backpacking through Europe, not artists actually trying to build something real. At family gatherings I didn't attend, I later learned they'd started introducing me differently. Not our daughter, the artist. Just our daughter. She's in New York. Like my career was something shameful, something to hide. My brother actively enjoyed it. He'd send me screenshots of his Instagram, pictures of his new car, his expensive dinners, his picture-perfect life. Always with the caption, "Hard work pays off." The subtext was clear, and your kind of work doesn't. They wanted me to fail. They were waiting for it, expecting it, maybe even hoping for it, so they could say, "I told you so," and welcome me back into their world of sensible choices and safe dreams. They had no idea I was about to make it impossible for them to ignore me ever again. Thanksgiving, I made the mistake of going home. I shouldn't have, but some stupid part of me thought maybe after 6 months they'd ask about my work. Maybe they'd want to see photos of my paintings. Maybe they'd be proud. I was so naive. The moment I walked through the door, my mother looked me up and down. "You've lost weight. Are you eating? Can you even afford food?" My father hugged me, then immediately asked, "So, when does this art thing end? Got any job applications out?" Dinner was worse. My entire extended family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins. My brother's new fiancée who kept flashing her enormous diamond ring. My brother stood up to make a toast. "I want to thank Mom and Dad for always pushing me to succeed, for teaching me the value of hard work and practical thinking." He looked directly at me. Some people chase fantasies. I chased results. Everyone clapped. My mother wiped away a proud tear. My Aunt Linda turned to me with that pitying smile I'd grown to hate. "Still painting, dear? That's sweet, like a hobby." "It's not a hobby," I said quietly. "It's my career." "Of course it is," she said, the way you'd agree with a child who insists their imaginary friend is real. My cousin Jennifer, the junior partner my mother loved to reference, decided to chime in. "You know, my firm is hiring assistants. No degree required. I could put in a word for you. Get you something stable." "I don't need—" "Pride doesn't pay bills, sweetheart," my mother interrupted, loud enough for the entire table to hear. "Jennifer is trying to help you. The least you could do is be grateful." The table went silent. Everyone stared at me, waiting. My brother smirked. My father sighed heavily, like I was an exhausting burden. My grandmother wouldn't meet my eyes. Not one person defended me, not one. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried silently for 10 minutes, mascara running down my face, wondering why I'd been stupid enough to think this time would be different. I left before dessert, took an Uber straight to the airport, spent $200 I didn't have on a last-minute flight back to New York. My mother texted me 3 days later. "You embarrassed us by leaving early." "Very immature." I didn't respond. I just painted, and painted, and painted. 2 weeks later, my phone rang with a New York number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Thank God I did. "Is this Elena Morrison?" The voice on the phone was professional, almost cold. "Yes," I said, my heart hammering. Unknown New York numbers usually meant bill collectors. "This is Catherine Wells from the National Emerging Artists Foundation. We've been trying to reach you about your submission to our annual exhibition." I froze. I'd submitted my Invisible Women series 3 months ago on a whim after my roommate convinced me to try. The application fee had been $75 I couldn't afford. I'd eaten rice and beans for 2 weeks to cover it. I'd never heard back. I'd assumed I was rejected. "We'd like to inform you that your series has been selected as one of our finalists," Catherine continued. "You're in the top 10, out of 4,000 applicants." The phone slipped in my sweaty hand. Top 10, out of 4,000. "The final round is next month. If you're selected as the winner, your work will be featured in our national touring exhibition. You'll receive a $50,000 grant, and you'll be profiled in Art Today magazine." I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. "Miss Morrison? Are you there?" Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you so much. After she hung up, I sat in my tiny apartment for an hour, just staring at the wall. Top 10, me, the girl who was wasting her life on crayons and daydreams. I wanted to call someone, to scream, to celebrate. But who would I call? My parents? Who had told me I had nothing? My brother? Who'd mocked my fantasy at Thanksgiving? Marcus was visiting family in Chicago. My other friends from the residency were scattered across the city, probably working their restaurant shifts. I sat alone in my apartment with the biggest news of my life, and nobody to share it with. The silence was deafening, suffocating. I looked at my phone, at my mother's last text, still unanswered. At the family group chat I'd muted months ago, where my brother probably posted about his promotion and everyone congratulated him endlessly. They didn't know. They didn't care. They'd written me off completely. I was utterly, completely alone with my almost success, and somehow that hurt worse than all their mockery combined. Because even if I won, even if I actually won, would it matter? Would they even believe me? Or would they find some way to diminish it, to make it small, to keep me in the box they'd built for me? I cried that night, not from sadness, from something darker, from the terrifying realization that I might succeed and they still might never see me. But I didn't know yet that someone was watching, someone who'd change everything. The final round was held at a massive gallery in Manhattan. White walls, soaring ceilings, my 12 paintings displayed under perfect lighting. I wore the only professional dress I owned. Black, simple, bought at a thrift store for $15. My hands shook as I stood in front of my work, surrounded by the other 9 finalists and their perfectly polished families. One girl had both parents, 3 siblings, and her grandmother there cheering for her. Another guy's entire art collective showed up wearing matching shirts with his name on them. I stood alone, again. Elena Morrison? A man's voice, warm and curious. I turned. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and kind eyes. Expensive suit, the kind of person who belonged in places like this. Yes? Robert Chen, he said, extending his hand. I'm one of the judges. I've been staring at your When They Laughed piece for 20 minutes. It's extraordinary. My throat tightened. Thank you. The pain in it is so raw, so specific. He stepped closer to the canvas, the one I'd painted after that graduation dinner, with faceless figures laughing around a single girl made of shadows. This happened to you, didn't it? This isn't conceptual. It's memory, I nodded, not trusting my voice. Where's your family today? He asked gently. They couldn't make it, I lied. The truth, that I hadn't told them, that they wouldn't have come anyway, felt too pathetic to say out loud. He studied me for a long moment. My parents told me I'd never make it as an artist, he said quietly. 40 years ago. I was your age, he smiled. I've been a working artist ever since. Sometimes the people who doubt you the most are the ones who fear your success the most. Why? I whispered. Because it forces them to confront their own abandoned dreams, he said, his voice firm. Your courage is a mirror they don't want to look into. Something in my chest cracked open. Win or lose today, Elena, you've already succeeded. You're here. You're standing. You didn't quit. He squeezed my shoulder. That takes more strength than they'll ever understand. When the judges left to deliberate, I found a corner and finally let myself cry. But these tears were different. Cleaner somehow. For the first time in months, someone had seen me. Really seen me. An hour later, Catherine Wells stepped onto the small stage with an envelope in her hands. My heart stopped. The room went completely silent. This was it. Everything I'd worked for. Everything I'd sacrificed. Everything my family said I'd never achieve. Catherine smiled and opened the envelope. The winner of this year's National Emerging Artists Award is Elena Morrison, the room erupted. People clapped. Someone whistled. The girl next to me hugged me even though we'd never spoken. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't process that my name had just been called. $50,000? A national tour, Art Today magazine? I walked to the stage in a daze. Catherine handed me a trophy that felt impossibly heavy. Cameras flashed. Robert Chen stood in the back, beaming, giving me a thumbs up. "Would you like to say anything?" Catherine asked, holding out the microphone. I should have thanked the foundation, the judges, my fellow artists. Instead, standing on that stage with proof that I wasn't nothing, I pulled out my phone. My hand shook as I opened the family group chat I'd muted 6 months ago. I typed, "I just won the National Emerging Artists Award. $50,000 grant. My work tours the country starting next month. Art Today is profiling me. Thought you'd want to know." I added a photo of me holding the trophy, hit send. Then I turned off my phone and gave my speech. The responses came later that night. Dozens of them. My mother called 11 times. 11. Each voicemail progressively more frantic. "Honey, why didn't you tell us you were being considered for something so important? We would have been there. Call me back." My father texted, "Congratulations. Very proud. Let's celebrate when you're home next." My brother, "Wow, congrats, sis. That's actually really cool. Actually really cool." Like he was surprised I was capable of anything impressive. My Aunt Linda, who'd called my art a hobby, suddenly remembered she'd always believed in my talent. Cousin Jennifer, "I always knew you'd make it. So inspiring." The lies made me sick. I didn't respond to any of them. Not for 3 days. When I finally called my mother back, her voice was different. Careful. Almost nervous. "Elena, sweetheart, we saw the announcement online. It's in all the local papers here. Everyone's talking about it." "Are they?" I said coldly. "Your father and I want to take you to dinner. A proper celebration. We can invite the whole family, like Thanksgiving?" I interrupted. "Where you told me I had nothing. Where nobody defended me when I was humiliated." Silence. "Mom, when I told you about the Whitman residency, you called it a participation trophy." Dad laughed at me. "You introduced me to people as just in New York, like my career was shameful." "We were just worried." "No," I said, my voice shaking. "You were embarrassed of me, and now that I've won something you can brag about, suddenly you're proud?" More silence. Then quietly, "That's not fair, Elena. What's not fair is spending my entire life trying to make you see me, and only mattering once I had a trophy to prove I wasn't worthless." I hung up before she could respond, but the confrontation I really needed was still coming. Art Today magazine sent a journalist to interview me 2 weeks later. Her name was Michelle Park, and she wanted to know everything. My process, my inspiration, my journey. "What drives your work?" she asked, recorder running between us in a small cafe. I told her the truth. About the graduation dinner. About my parents' mockery. About Thanksgiving. About standing alone at the award ceremony while other artists had cheering sections. "Your series Invisible Women is clearly personal," Michelle said carefully. "The piece When They Laughed, is that autobiographical?" "Yes. And your family? Have they seen the work? Do they understand what inspired it?" I hesitated. "They know I won. They don't know why I painted it." Michelle leaned forward. "Elena, I did some research on you. Local newspaper archives from your hometown." She pulled out her laptop and turned it toward me. "Look at this." It was an article from 12 years ago. A photo of a little girl, me, age 12, holding a painting at a school art fair. The headline read, "Local student wins regional youth art competition." I'd forgotten about that. Completely forgotten. "Your mother gave a quote," Michelle said, pointing to the text. She said, and I'm reading directly, "We always knew Elena was special. Art is her gift, and we'll support her dreams no matter what." My blood ran cold. "There's more," Michelle continued, clicking through saved articles. Age 14, another competition win. Your father's quoted, "Elena's talent is extraordinary. We're so proud." Age 16. Age 17. 4 different articles over 6 years, Elena. They used to brag about you. I stared at the screen, at the smiling photos of younger me, at my parents beaming beside me in some of them. "What happened?" Michelle asked softly. And then I remembered. Age 18. College applications. I'd gotten into art school, my dream, and also into pre-law at a state university. My parents sat me down. Art school is a nice idea, honey, but pre-law is practical. You can always paint as a hobby. I'd chosen art school anyway, used my own scholarship money. That's when everything changed. They supported me when I was a kid with a hobby, I whispered. But when I wanted to make it my life, when the stakes were real, they couldn't handle it. Because? Michelle prompted. Because they were scared. Scared I'd fail. Scared I'd struggle. Scared I'd prove that following your dreams actually works, and they'd have to face what they'd given up in their own lives. The revelation hit me like a truck. They'd loved my art when it was safe, when it was cute, when it didn't challenge their worldview about practical careers and sensible choices. But the moment I insisted on taking it seriously, they panicked. And panic turned to mockery. Mockery turned to cruelty. Are you going to include this in the article? I asked Michelle. She closed her laptop. That's up to you. But Elena? The world deserves to know the real story behind these paintings. The truth about what it costs to choose yourself when the people who raised you want you to choose safety instead. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Print it, I said. Print all of it. The Art Today article came out 3 weeks later. The headline, Elena Morrison, the artist, her family tried to erase. Michelle hadn't held back. She'd included everything. The quotes from my childhood articles showing my parents' early support, the graduation dinner humiliation, the Thanksgiving disaster, me standing alone at the award ceremony. She'd even included screenshots of the family group chat messages where they'd suddenly pretended to be supportive after I won. The article went viral. Completely, absolutely viral. Within 48 hours, it had been shared over 200,000 times. People were commenting, writing think pieces, sharing their own stories of families who'd crushed their dreams. My phone exploded. Interview requests from podcasts, news sites, other magazines. An art collector from Los Angeles bought 3 pieces from my series for $75,000 total. A gallery in Chicago offered me a solo show. And my parents? They were getting destroyed. Someone found my mother's Facebook page and flooded the comments. How does it feel to mock your daughter's dreams? You should be ashamed. She succeeded despite you, not because of you. My father's dental practice got review bombed. If he treats his daughter this badly, imagine how he treats his patients. My brother's company, LinkedIn, was filled with comments. Your sister is more successful than you'll ever be. Part of me felt guilty. Most of me felt vindicated. My mother called me sobbing. Elena, please, you have to make them stop. People are saying horrible things. Your father's practice is suffering. This is ruining our lives. Like you tried to ruin mine? I said quietly. We never tried to ruin your life. We were protecting you. By humiliating me? By telling everyone I had nothing? By laughing at my dreams in front of our entire family? She was crying so hard she could barely speak. We were wrong. Okay, we were wrong. We should have supported you. We should have believed in you. Please, Elena, please tell people we're not monsters. My father got on the phone. Pumpkin, listen. We made mistakes. But we're your parents. We love you. Can't we fix this? I don't know, Dad, I said, surprised by how calm I felt. Can you fix mocking me at my graduation? Can you fix Thanksgiving? Can you fix 24 years of making me feel like my dreams were worthless? Silence. The article told the truth, I continued. If the truth makes you look bad, that's not my problem. That's yours, I hung up. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. Inside was a check for $60,000 from my parents. The note read, We're sorry. We should have helped you from the beginning. We hope this makes up for some of what we failed to give you. I stared at that check for an hour, and all I felt was empty, because money couldn't erase what they'd done. It couldn't give me back the version of them who'd been proud of 12-year-old me. It couldn't undo the loneliness, the doubt, the nights I'd cried myself to sleep wondering if they were right about me. But it could do something else. I donated the entire $60,000 to an emerging artist fund I created myself, the Morrison Grant, for young artists whose families didn't believe in them. When the press asked why I didn't keep the money, I said, because guilt money doesn't heal anything. But helping other artists like me, that means something. That quote got picked up everywhere. My parents saw it. So did everyone else. 6 months later, my national tour opened in my hometown. The local museum, the same one where I'd won that competition at age 12, featured my Invisible Women series as their main exhibition. My parents came to the opening. Of course they did. Half the town was there. I saw them walk in, looking small and uncertain among the crowd of people congratulating me, asking for photos, treating me like I mattered. My mother approached first, tears already streaming down her face. Elena, the work it's beautiful. I had no idea you were this talented. You did know, I said quietly. You knew when I was 12. You just stopped believing when it became inconvenient. My father stepped forward. We were wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. And I know our apology isn't enough. I know the money wasn't enough. But please, tell us what we can do. I looked at them. These people who'd given me life but nearly destroyed my dreams. These people who loved me in theory but couldn't love the real me, the artist me, the inconvenient me. You can start by being honest, I said. Not just with me, with yourselves. About why you really tried to stop me. My mother's voice broke. Because we were terrified. Terrified you'd struggle like we did. Your father wanted to be a musician. I wanted to write. We both gave up our dreams for practical choices, and we've regretted it every single day of our lives. There it was. Finally. The truth. So you tried to kill my dream because you'd already murdered your own? The entire gallery went silent. Everyone was watching now. My father nodded, tears running down his face. Yes, and that was unforgivable. I could have destroyed them right there. Could have told them to leave, made a scene, let everyone see their shame. Instead, I took a breath. I forgive you, I said. Not because you deserve it, but because carrying anger is exhausting and I'm tired. My mother reached for my hand. I let her take it. But things are different now, I continued. You don't get to be proud of me only when it's convenient. You don't get to claim me only when I've won something impressive. If you want to be in my life, you accept all of it. The struggles, the failures, the messy parts, the uncertain parts. Not just the trophy-worthy moments. We will, my father whispered. We promise. I didn't know if they meant it. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. But I'd said what I needed to say. As they walked away, Robert Chen appeared beside me. That took courage, he said. No, I said, looking at my paintings on these pristine white walls, at the crowd of strangers who'd paid money to see my pain transformed into beauty. Courage was staying. Courage was painting when everyone said I shouldn't. This? I gestured toward my parents' retreating backs. This was just closure, he smiled. What's next for you? I thought about the offers flooding my inbox, the galleries wanting to show my work, the collectors ready to buy, the young artists who'd emailed me saying I'd inspired them to keep going. Everything, I said. And for the first time in my life, when I said that, I actually believed it.